Yes, I think this would then go back to something more general that we have also talked about, that it's important to try to understand your conversation partner's point of view, even if you don't agree with it. So, which is then, I think, a hallmark of a good conversation or debate, rather than some political conversations on YouTube and television where people just basically talk their propaganda to the other person and they never even listen what the other person is saying.
Exactly. Yeah, we sort of experience that right now in Norway, because we're soon going to have a political election. And now we have the politicians debating each other on stage, and all the time it's just rhetoric, and don't really care about pursuing good arguments or truth. It's just that, hey, here is a way I can respond to it that seems convincing to the audience. It's just obvious. It's just rhetoric.
Yeah, it's very sad sometimes when you watch political debates, because yeah, I think this is also a sign that our political system is not in very good shape, because it's much more about defending some partial interest from your interest group which votes for you. I'm not actually talking about the truth and solving problems and finding good solutions. So
right, exactly. And the politicians, of course, they have this motive to win as many votes as possible to the election. So it's basically just this mindset that, or at least pressure from their colleagues, that in this debate you're going to do your very best to make people be convinced by you. That's the only goal that they care. Yeah,
it's like in university you have to collect credit points, and in politics you have to collect votes. So the truth is not so important, but just collecting as many votes as possible is the objective.
That was an interesting analogy.
Yes, and it's of course very problematic, because it's very just short-term thinking. I mean, this might make you actually successful in this election, but the country might slowly but surely go to ruins over the next 2 decades. So it's not very good from that point of view.
Yes, exactly. And that's related to an issue that in politics there seems to be this idea that, well, let's not talk about the deep philosophical issues here, because now we just have to think about the short-term things. We just have to keep this party out of politics just for this election. So just let's keep us to the superficial things, because that's what's matter and practical in the moment. But if you always think that way, then you will never actually deeply change things. Then you will only have surface level changes, and you will never actually challenge the fundamental ideas at place, because you will always think pragmatically and therefore never principally, and that's problematic.
Yes, and also it's then always this we call this the fire extinguisher politics, or the firefighter politics. So always there is some big crisis, and so like a big burning fire, and then everybody tries to put it out, and then there is the next big crisis, and then everybody tries to fix that. But it's always very short-term, last moment emergency fix for some very current problem. And as you said, then you never actually look at the deep-seated problems and change something very fundamentally important. And so it's basically a recipe for decay over time.